initiating now. It didn't before. And we're live. Let me check it on my YouTube channel. Going live is always fun.
Yeah, if it's going to work.
It's got to work.
It's not happy.
I can't see the live stream on my computer yet. Hi everyone, if you're watching, I don't know how many people are watching, but if you're watching, we're live on a 360 camera. Do have a look around the room and you can see Andrew struggling on his computer, on his phone. Sorry about the noise, people playing foosball.
I doubt you can hear that.
I think they can hear it, it's quite loud.
Oh, it's not that loud.
But how can I see my live stream? So I can get the chat. Here we go, live now. Perfect. Okay. One person watching, it's probably me. But what we plan to do today is go through our presentation which we're giving tomorrow in London, UK, and our plan is to explain to people who want to become developers what it takes to be a developer. So if you have any questions, do ask us now. If you have any ideas as we go through the presentation, hopefully you can see it on the screen. The quality on YouTube does not look great, but hopefully that is legible, what you can see. And yeah, maybe you can give some tips and some thoughts and ask us some good questions, get some ideas buzzing. We've got 3 people watching now. So anyone who's just joined, we're doing a presentation tomorrow, Andrew and myself. Andrew is on the other side of the camera. I say he's hiding, but this is a 360 camera. So he's actually...
thumbnail.
Yours is live?
You're out, you're in.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So spin the camera around. Don't forget to grab the video on YouTube and drag it around, and you can see Andrew and you can see his camera back down there.
I'll do.
Is that your thumbnail?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll ask you. Cool.
Going live.
Nice, I have
Cool.
4 people watching, let's go. So we'll do our presentation at the moment is what it takes to be a developer. We are doing it in Keynote for speed, but we will do it in
We're going to move
Reveal.js
over to Reveal.js, which
for open source.
it's still reasonably quick. It's just, this is unfortunately a little bit quicker.
It is quicker for some of the animations. I haven't done animations in Reveal.js. Who am I? Hey, thanks for
Are we
joining.
happy with the start slide? That's the question. So we've got a start slide. Is that enough to just put up on the screen? Should we be saying a bit more?
I think you should use my setup because I've got more screens.
Yeah, but that just adds more confusion to the screen, right? You want
That's
to
what
have
we
some
want.
space for... I think that's fine, right? That's the subject. That's what
Okay.
we're talking about.
Although it hasn't come up in the video yet. This video on YouTube's a bit behind.
Later on, let's check how it looks on full screen.
Okay.
There you go.
So yes, we're doing a so who am I? Just joined. Thanks for joining and thanks for saying hi in the chat. Everyone else who's there, do say hi in the chat. We're doing a presentation for what it takes to be a developer.
I can't actually have the chat open, I've realised, because I'm doing the presentation through to here, so I can't actually talk to anyone. So if anyone's on my channel looking, which I think at the moment we're okay, because I've only just
Do you want me
started.
to open? I can open a flip between the two.
But hey, that's cool.
Let me open yours. I'll open your chat. Is it Andrew Cunliffe?
Yeah, it should be.
Why can't I find it? Let me just search for you.
So first slide, we want to do a little bit of a kind of jokey thing, right?
Yes.
That's the idea, is to start a little bit kind of, what is recruitment culture? So when we get calls from people, and when jobs get posted up, people focus on a number of things that, to be fair, they're just not realistic. They're not things that matter so much anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe 15, 20 years ago when software and things were still growing and solidifying, they were important. But nevertheless, people still revert back to this stuff. They're saying, you need a degree in computer science. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Do you really need a degree in computer science?
Absolutely not. I know you believe the same. That's quite archaic. It's quite old to think you need a degree in computer science. And I think we're going to articulate that hopefully quite well tomorrow. And the organiser from tomorrow has just messaged me.
You're sharing your slides too soon.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Although the slides don't look very readable on the 360 camera. That looks so washed out.
In fact, actually, you're right. You're on there. They're not looking great.
But we will read out the slides.
Maybe a darker background will help.
Maybe. And we've just
different
had
background lines.
Uggle. I don't know if I pronounced your username. I'm really sorry if I have.
How's that?
Got
Is that reading better?
Wait for it to come through. And maybe can you put the writing in white?
Yeah,
as
I'll
well?
make the writing white.
We've got 7 people watching now. Okay, there's climbing. Yours is your couple people watching. I'll give you a thumbs up, Andrew. So I've got 3 thumbs up. So yeah, we're working on our slides, and this first slide is kind of the myths. So this myths part will be animate down afterwards.
Yes,
and
we'll
the
start
idea
from here.
is degree in computer science. I mean, what does everyone think? People who are watching, do you think a degree in computer science is needed to get a job in software engineering? I'm kind of guessing the answer, but why don't you write it in the chat and let's see.
Yeah, so the other thing, a lot of people seem to think you've got to be like super good at maths, right? Like
human calculator.
If you've got to do some kind of calculation, I mean, at the end of the day, we work on computers, right? We can just type something in, go to Google, look things up. You're not reinventing the wheel most of the time. Like if I want to, I know I've got to draw a graph and I need to draw a pie chart, chances are I can go grab it off the internet anyway. I might be able to figure it out myself, but why reinvent the wheel? There's libraries for that kind of stuff. It's more about how can I go about finding it, not so much can I do it myself these days.
Yeah.
Again, 20 years ago, possibly it was useful to be able to do that kind of stuff. Nowadays, not so much.
Yeah, I agree. So calculator part, it's not needed so much anymore. Know all the latest technology. This is one of my favourites because for everyone who's watching, by the way, don't forget it's a 360 camera, so do grab the corner.
Yeah, you can move around, check where we're at. There's no one playing games outside right now, but there's a games room right next to us.
If we get time, we'll take you out for a game of pool or table tennis.
Yeah, we'll play some table tennis at the end of this, and yeah, that's cool.
So knowing the latest technology, I love it when I see job roles and they say, must have 10 years in React, and React's been around for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something. And it's just, that happens like so much.
Yeah, the number of techs, I mean, they'll list like 30 odd technologies and say, we expect you to know all of this, and we don't expect you to just know it. We expect you to have been doing it for longer than the bloody thing exists in the first place. Yeah. You're just like, yeah, that's just not realistic. No one's going to know 20 different things and all the different languages. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can probably take a look at a language and understand and read it quite quickly, but if I want to write it, that's different. I mean,
yes.
No matter how many years experience you've got.
Absolutely.
It's not so much what your experience is, what your background is. Yeah, okay, a year or two in that kind of stuff, it will definitely help give you a quick start. But if you're going into a decent role, decent place, you'll be supported, you'll have the mentors there, they'll tell you what you're doing. So specifics on technology, not so needed. Something more generalistic, like React is built on JavaScript, so you might say, okay, I need someone that's got a couple of years with JavaScript. If they've got some exposure to frameworks, fair dues. But the reality is, frameworks are going to come and go. React, it's been around for a little while now. Is it on its way out? That's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation. Let's not get into that now. Angular's obviously better. I'm joking.
That's another
We're not getting that conversation. Also, should code all day and night? I think that's quite a myth, right? A lot of people think we just sit in a back room, really quiet.
Or you sit in a basement somewhere, lights are all dark, you just sat there, head down, like 30 screens in front of you. I mean, proper kind of...
like Matrix stuff. And it's like, that's not true. During the day, we need to work with other people, designers, business analysts, the client. So yes, we like to code probably as much as possible, but in reality, probably only code like just over half the day. The rest of the time,
I think there was some statistics someone said is 15% of your time you're actually writing code.
Really? 15?
The rest of that time is admin work, it's agreeing requirements, it's looking at the acceptance criteria. Basically, 15% of your time is actually writing the usable code, the functional code. The rest of it, it's all the prep and the analysis and just all the other stuff that sits around it. Yeah, some of it's learning stuff, doing some research, etc.
Yeah, looking through reading documentation and all the rest.
So you're not there coding all day and night. Don't get me wrong, the people that are really kind of, absorbed or enthusiastic about this stuff, they may well be doing that. They may well be putting in 12, 14 hours. I know I've probably done some of those from time to time, but the reality is you don't need to be doing that. You need to be learning, you need to be involved, you need to be
balanced,
going to some of the events, that kind of stuff. But when those are the expectations that people have got for you, that's the wrong culture, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. Going to events, networking, meetups, hackathons, and learning new technologies at hackathons, getting exposure to those is really, really important. Do they need to be a code ninja, Andrew?
What is a code ninja anyway? I don't even know what a code ninja is. I don't think I've actually met someone going around in like a little black suit, kind of hiding in the shadows, jumping out and going, yeah, here you go, done it.
I know what a code ninja is. They're just like a code rock star.
What's one of them?
I know what code rock star is like. It's like a code black ops.
Basically it's just some kind of bullshit term that some marketing person has come up with, and they think this sounds cool. It's like going down to the pub with a few mates, right? You go down there, have a bit of a laugh, you come up with some stupid things, you go away into the night and you forget about it all. Whereas these people, it sticks with them, and they start to think that's what they should be looking for. And that's what people like, just because people might be having a joke about it.
True. The amount of job roles we see that are like, need to be rock star. If you're a ninja, then come work for us. It's like, delete, not interested, or never look at it, and I'll never write that on my job spec.
You know they're just a bunch of clowns at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
They're fooling around, they're not very serious about it. They might think they are, but evidently they're not if they're asking for stuff like that.
Absolutely. So don't forget, everyone, there's a 360 camera. Do have a scroll around and look around the room. There's
Yeah, you
much
probably
going
can't
on.
see me at the moment. I'm probably out of your camera, aren't I?
I slightly moved it. So
Okay, I can come over a bit.
we can scooch in as long as we don't block the monitor, which I don't think we are. We'll see how that goes in a second. So we've done. Don't need a degree in computer science. You don't need to be good at maths. You don't need to know all. You don't need to know all the latest technologies. 10 years in React, when React has been around for like 5, say for example. Should code all day and night. What rubbish.
And then they start to try and give you selling points, right? They say, well, why do you want this job? So not only are they expecting you to do all this stuff and be this physical, or sorry, not physical, I'm trying to think of the word, the phantom person that just doesn't really exist. They're
Oh yeah, true.
made up, imaginary, whatever. So that first of all, they're expecting you to be this person, and then they're trying to sell you this thing to say, hey, look, you come join this company, you do this work for them. They're building the next Facebook.
Oh yes, it's true.
I mean,
yes.
seriously, you're building the next Facebook, are you? That's a great ambition to have, perhaps, but you're not.
It's true.
What is it you're trying to do?
It's true, and those are the type of places that say, oh, you must have like all the big data stuff because you've got big data, and you go, well, how big is your data? We've got a 2 gig database, and it's massive, and it's like that can run on my phone. Like seriously.
Yeah, people's expectations and realities are very different.
Yeah. Or you got 2 thumbs up.
Cool. But I suppose the other thing, right, is not only is it a case of we're building this next big thing, it's mission statements, visions. They never talk about what is it we're actually trying to go. What are our long-term goals? They come up with this kind of fantasy thing of we're building the next Facebook, but they can't tell you, well, actually, what we want to do is we want to improve people's lives. We want to make things more transparent. We want to do this, we want to do that. No one ever actually says, this is what our goals are. It'd be much more interesting to understand what their goals are for the next couple of years, what they're trying to do. I mean, become engrossed in that journey as well. I mean,
Yeah, it's really important.
When I take a job, I'm looking at the journey.
And everyone wants to be part of that journey, really. But if you don't tell them the journey, they go in there more for the job and the salary, rather than, in addition to that, they're going to be passionate. We had a question actually about the Dr. Snow. Thanks for joining. We've got a question for Ugla. Hopefully I pronounced it right. I'm really sorry if I haven't. Do you think some types of developers need a CS degree? For instance, writing low-level code, counting clock cycles on the CPU, or writing advanced distributed systems? It's a fair question.
It's a fair question. I mean, there are certainly some really low-level things that if you've not got any background in computer science and you just drop-shipped into it, yeah, you've got no hope of doing it, right? But if you've got the right background, the right sort of interests, let's say, you've been floating around the right circles, okay, you might not be able to go straight from A to B. It might take you a bit longer. But I would probably rather hire... I'll take a realistic example. I'd probably someone from like a history or philosophy type background where they read a lot, they understand, they absorb all that information. Because the low level stuff, it's still changing, but there's a lot of consistency there. Like assembly language is not going to really change, right?
That's true.
Yeah, obviously I'm not going to discount people with a computer science degree. It's not a case of you've got a computer degree, I'm not interested.
But it's not a requirement, though, I think.
But it's being inclusive. It's saying, okay, so for this role, what's your background like? Have you done this kind of stuff? Have you not done this stuff? If you were to need to do it, what tools do you go to? I mean, a lot of people will cite, I look at Stack Overflow, I look at Google.
Stack Overflow is not a good thing, right? Because most things on there are out of date anyway.
The nice thing with Stack Overflow is it gives you some reminders and it kind of tips you in the right direction.
Yes, true.
But I'll be more interested in people that say, okay, I will go and perhaps watch a video on that, or I will go and do an online tutorial and those kind of things, and be up to date with it and look at those things. So if you've got the right kind of approach, then you'd be interested in recruiting those people. But you're not going to just say, because you've got a computer science degree, I'm going to assume you can do the job, because chances are they can't.
Yeah, and I mean, I did electronic engineering at university, and we had to do a bit of software, but all that stuff we did around software doesn't help me today. And I think it was taught really badly and really out of date, and actually wasn't very helpful. I know you did a computer science degree, Andrew, so did you feel it helped you with what you did today, or it was just...
It was a bit of a tick in the box exercise, I suppose. Yeah, there are a couple of things I perhaps learnt there, but I would say today, have I actually used anything? I mean, I spent 4 years doing a degree, well, a year in industry during it. The year in industry is probably the most beneficial thing, because I learned how to deal with people and the sort of real life problems.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, it's the real life stuff. The stuff you learn in the classroom, okay, it's helpful, it points you in the right direction, you learn some of the syntaxes and stuff, and it might expedite some of that, but having a good mentor, someone that you can look up to when you start there and say, right, this person, he can guide me in the right direction, you can say, look here, this is where you go, that's much more valuable than sitting in a classroom and being told, go read this book.
This theory of stuff that you don't really do on a day-to-day basis and so on, there's not a lot, it's interesting, but there's not a lot of value in that, I think. And like sorting data, like with different sorts, right? You just get the database to do it. And you don't really do those sorts of things. Just with the people watching, let us know what your background is. Are you developers or want to get into development? Because the presentation we're preparing for tomorrow is what it takes to be a developer. So I'd be interested to know what your thoughts and feedback are.
This is also what it takes to be a developer. We're doing a talk tomorrow. We want to start out by just kind of pointing out to people what an expectation from the real world is. They have this kind of view of a developer that says, these are the things we expect. You expect to have a computer science degree. We expect you to be able to calculate things, have a really strong maths background, let's say. We expect you to know all the latest tech, be kind of done 10 years with React, even though it's not been around for anywhere near 10 years. You're going to be up all night. You're going to be a code ninja. They love to throw these buzzwords at you. And then they'll start saying, well, how are we going to sell this to you? Well, you're going to build the next Facebook. You're going to make a shitload of money. You're going to be rich really fast. But neither of us are rich. Don't want to get me wrong. We've worked hard. We've got ourselves into a comfortable place, and we're trying to share that and help other people get somewhere. But it's not a get-rich-quick thing. I mean, you're not going to suddenly come up with some idea and sell it for millions, and no one's going to hire you for £20,000 a day or anything like that. But you'll get yourself in a comfortable place, and if you're lucky, you'll meet good people that are in the right culture. They talk about free food games rooms. Well, we seem to have, if you look, use the 360 camera, you'll see we are sat next to a games room.
Let me pan on the 360 camera. Oh yes, you can. So if you sit back slightly, Andrew, if everyone looks, if everyone pans that way, there's a pool table. Carry on, go on.
We've got a pool table, table tennis. There is a foosball table
you
around
can probably
there.
hear the dunk 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 noise at the moment.
It's a bit quiet right now because it's kind of end of the day. A lot of people have finished for the day, but we're in a WeWork space effectively,
in London,
which is fantastic for the office space and the access to the meeting rooms and all the rest of it. And it is nice to have that. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, it's good to just sit back, play a bit of table tennis, talk a little, whatever.
Also live stream like we are now and connect with you awesome people, but that doesn't determine culture. When they say free food and games room, you can't force culture. People, if you put them in a good or bad kind of physical environment, it's the people that will create the culture, not the environment. It's nice to have a good environment, but that doesn't determine it.
And the last point we're talking about, so we mentioned next Steve Jobs. I mean, everyone has a hero they might aspire to. I wouldn't say we aspire to Steve Jobs by any means. We just threw a few names in the hat, Bill Gates, so forth. But a lot of people seem to suggest you go into doing this, you're going to become one of these well-known leaders, invent the next great thing. Not true either. I mean, none of the stuff on this is true. So this is why we've said these are all myths. They're all fictional things that recruitment and management have all come up with, and they seem to be bought into that. So from our point of view, we want to change that opinion a bit. And that's what we're trying to do, I suppose. We're trying to change opinion. We're trying to make people realise that there's a real world element to this.
Yeah.
There's a culture element to this.
Culture is so important. A big passion of mine. Culture is really important. I'm going to rant now.
No, there you go for it.
So if you're looking at Andrew, pan over this way and look at me.
Yeah, Eddie's going to give you the next 20 minutes.
Like 2 minutes. Just culture is so important, and trying to force culture doesn't work. Trying to force it with, we'll take you pizzas on Friday. It doesn't work. People will organise their own shit if they like each other. And
talk to them, right? It's not a case of just leave them go and let them do whatever. Go around, talk to them. If you've got a team of people, the most valuable thing you can do is sit with them and become part of their team. Talk to them, understand their problems, help them solve their problems. Ask them, what do you need? Little things like that.
Simple things, yeah, absolutely.
That's the culture. It's not, hey, look, over there's a free bar, go help yourself. Don't get me wrong, I've gone to the free bar this evening and I fancied having a drink whilst we have a chat, but that is not a culture that you force on people. That's kind of a personal preference thing.
And unfortunately, if you have one bad person in that who doesn't think the same as that culture or that team, then it's a bit like a cancer. And also then people start worrying, politics come into play, then people start worrying, I've got to speak to that person, and you don't concentrate on the work. Whereas if you're working with a really good team and you all work well together, you want to deliver, you want to do live streams together, you want to get that beer together, have that lunch together, brown bags together. So yeah, culture.
Well, there was that video,
really
right,
important.
with Gary V.
Yeah.
He put the video out saying, you know what, if there's somebody in your organisation and they're making other people around them miserable or unproductive, just get rid of them. Don't
even
keep
if
them.
they're the best developer, the best salesperson, like Andrew was saying, just get rid of them. It's not worth having one one bad person who might be technically good.
That attitude spreads, right?
Exactly.
People kind of get focused and they get drawn down. It's really easy to bring people down. It's really difficult to bring them up.
It's true.
So,
it's very, very true.
Yeah, get rid of the people that are causing the problem, because that'll just spread like wildfire.
Yeah, attitude is more important than skill. So when we're hiring, we look more at the attitude than the actual skill level. Obviously, don't get me wrong, skill level is important.
You've got to have the right head in your shoulders. You can't be an idiot. I mean, that's why. God, last time I recruited someone, I probably looked at 50 CVs before hiring them, and that's probably a typical thing. You look at a lot of CVs. I talk on the phone to almost every CV that comes in. You send a CV, I will probably call up and we'll have a chat, and within 5 minutes, it will either be let's keep talking, or sorry, you've got the wrong head in your shoulders, or your attitude stinks. But it's a balance between the two. You can't have purely the best attitude in the world, not unless you're going for a salesperson. Maybe I'm hiring a salesperson.
Or community manager or something like that, yes.
But if you're hiring a developer, which is what we're trying to talk about, then it's a mix of the two. You've got to have the right balance there. You've got to be able to do the techie stuff, you've got to be a bit of a geek in your free time, and you've got to be able to just know how to interact with people.
Yeah, communication and collaboration is so important. That's where DevOps comes about. We won't go into that now, but recruiters, like, they fuck this up, they mess it, I don't know if I can swear on the stream, but they mess up the whole job titles. They go, yes, DevOps, you get a developer and ops person for the price of one. Say, no, DevOps is a culture, but we won't go into that now. And I'm going to answer...
So what's our next... Oh,
one was going to answer... I have a reason why this question, or this comment or statement from Uggle says, since you asked, I'm shifting from electronic engineering to software, SW, I guess that's software.
Sounds like your background.
And looking to break into the industry. That's what I did. I've pulled the camera over this way, like get the stream over this way. I did electronic engineering, I did a master's in electronic engineering, and I'm in software. And 15 years later, I don't regret it at all. I think it's so much more dynamic, it's so much more of a community. I love the open source side, love the creative side where electronics is a bit more structured and rigid. It's not so creative. So definitely make the change and you'll enjoy it. Let me know how you get on with that change. I'd be really interested. And Dr. Snow says student developer. Cool. Keep studying. Do open source. All of you do open source, even if it's a little bit. It will really help you find work later on.
And that doesn't mean start a new project, but just contribute. Look at what's going on.
Cool. We've got Circle Pixel says currently an adult student myself. Quit my job as a IT technician to become a developer. Hopefully start a BSc computer science in September. Sounds awesome. Sounds good. Do it. Like the best decision I ever made was.
Don't get me wrong, I think the training's good, the education's good, but if you've already got some experience and some background, you've been an IT technician, right? So you must have picked up a few things. You've got something you can work with there. The qualification isn't, unless there's a particular thing you really want to learn, the qualification isn't going to get you the jobs going forward. What will get you the jobs is the attitude.
Attitude, open source.
It will be giving some evidence that you've been in the right circles. Yeah. So, the experience as an IT technician, that's going to go somewhere.
Yeah, it's going to help.
And being able to, convince the person that's sat on the other side of there that you are resourceful.
Yes, it's not knowing all the answers. You're resourceful, you know where to look. So, like, for example, design patterns. You don't have to memorize all of them. Learn the few useful ones that you use over and again and be aware of the others. So you know the title and you know roughly what it does and you know where to look for it when you need it. Go, oh, that design pattern will help. I know where I can look for that. It's Wikipedia or sourcemaking.com or whatever it is. So yes, that's really, really important too. I'm conscious of the time.
Yeah, so next slide, we're then going to talk about ourselves a bit. This goes really bright. I'm going to have to make these all darker, I think, because there's a slight issue with the brightness I noticed. And if we're going to be having this recorded, so tomorrow when we do this, we're going to be recording this as well. This is going to be
on
live.
A better camera, but still.
Live stream tomorrow evening?
No, we won't live stream it.
We're not live streaming tomorrow,
I can't manage to chat.
So tomorrow evening, this is what the talk we're doing. We're talking to an audience of, 50 budding developers at an evening meet-up. And we're going to be just kind of taking them through a bit of our background. So obviously we're starting out with a little bit of a fun, bit of retort going on. Yeah. Then we're going to take them on and talk to them a little bit about ourselves, our own background. So for myself, it's about 18 approximately years ago. I thought we need to check yours. But the reality is probably the last 3 years are all that counts. I mean,
technology moves so
fast.
So fast. 5 years maybe.
There's a joke on there. We've got 3 years because the reality is I probably started coding on what I'm using today 3 years ago. But I've got a background that probably takes me 18 years back. For me, the main thing that I'm interested in is agile practices. I think if you get those right and they're instilled correctly, they're great. But it's not like what tool set do I use. I mean, the number of places that you go to and they say, oh, we're agile. And you say, oh, cool. What sort of things are you doing? We're using Jira. And you just go, oh, seriously, that's what makes you think you're agile. That has nothing to do with being agile, apart from it's potentially a mechanism once your practices are right. So for me, I love agile. I think it's definitely the way forward. The problem is it gets a bad name because so many places either get it wrong or they use it as a marketing tool for their clients or whatever. Or they're just led by the wrong people. There's a big leadership problem when it comes to agile.
Yes, true. They like the buzzwords, but they don't appreciate that the ceremonies are so important. You can't miss them. Oh, this week we're miss-planning, we're miss-retrospecting.
Yeah, we'll shift the retro to the end of the week. You're like,
it doesn't work like that because you lose that week of improving. We got a question just going to say, how about projects? What would you like to see in a portfolio? I think that's a really good question.
Yeah, that is good. I think that is definitely valuable because I do like to see a bit of what is something you've worked on because it brings a bit more reality there. For me, it's all about the reality of what have you actually done. Seeing a list of places saying, oh, I've worked for Visa, I've worked for, I'm trying to think of some of the big names that we throw out there that are sensible.
What ones that we've worked for, generally speaking?
Yeah, I mean, you could talk about DHL or something. But the big name brands, let's say. You can say, I've worked for these people, I've been chief architect, I've been an IT director, I've just been a lackey doing tests. I won't say a lackey, I mean, it's an important role. But whatever you feel is at any level, you could say, I've done all these things. Okay, they might look good as kind of just a checklist to say, okay, so you've been at a few places and you've had a few titles. The reality is no one's probably going to actually go and look those up, so you could have written anything on there. Yes. On occasions, I think on probably 3 occasions I've actually called up to check on something because it's been a very senior role I've been hiring for and I wanted to validate that. But in most cases, no one's actually going to call up, so you could have written anything on there and it'll get you through the door. But on a CV, what I'm most interested in is certainly your real life experience. Talk about your projects. Did you have a really successful project where it either increased money coming into the business, so the return on investment they've made? Were you building a team and was that a success? Did the team gel well? Depends on what I'm hiring for, but certainly being able to see there was this project. So I'll take a project I did recently. So it was quite a long project, a few years, but it started out with just 2 of us. There were two of us working on it, solution architects, developers. For the first year, it was pretty much the 2 of us. We were proof of concepting things, making sure it all worked. And then after those 2 years, we started building up teams around that. And over the next 2 years, we went from the 2 of us to just shy of 30 people across 3 teams. Fantastic. It was great growth. But what was the downfall for them was they saw all the growth and the great work coming out, the new clients they were bringing on board, and they thought, you know what, we need to go and sell more. So they brought in more salespeople, product owners that didn't understand the history of what was going on, and over the following 6 months, things just got really bad for them. They were losing customers, they were focused outwards so much, they weren't focusing inwards.
And inwards is so important. Again, I'm going to rant again, it's like culture is so important, but also looking inward. If you're looking inward, you're looking after your people, they're happy, they'll do a better job, they'll do a higher quality. If it's open source, the quality is already massively higher because people know that their friend, their colleagues, their future employers are going to look at it. So going back to the portfolio, if your people are building websites for their portfolio, I don't want to see screenshots and pictures, I want to see the code on GitHub. And if it's open source, if it's UI, if it's a website, it's already available, right? You can view the source code. Yes, you can minify and uglify it, but really it's still there. So you might as well put it on GitHub open source. Even put your learnings on GitHub open source.
Skip to your slide, right? So on here we've got a slide for Eddie as well. I need to make this dark too, so I'll do that whilst you talk. So this is Eddie's slide, a bit of his background.
This is my chibi, my character. So yeah, again, started to code a long time ago. I finished uni a long time ago, the electronic engineering degree. I'm a huge advocate for open source for so many reasons. Not only is the quality better, I think people who do open source appreciate the culture and collaboration, and they have a respect for all the other developers. So when they're commenting on a pull request or an issue, they're more respectful because they understand a lot of effort, hard work going into that, rather than saying this is shit. They'll say, well, have you also thought about this? And I think that's really important. So when I'm hiring, I'm actually looking for that. So that's really, really important for me. Inclusive teams, again, like Andrew said, inclusive teams, attitude is so important. Skills can be taught, but attitude it can't be. Connor asks, what are our thoughts on whiteboarding and algorithm questions? How important is this skill? I think that's really dated. Like,
Yeah, so this is my pet peeve now.
okay,
So
go on.
I've been interviewed. I'm a consultant still. I still go around to places looking for work, and I try to pick up projects more so. We go around as a team typically. So the two of us, we've worked together for the last 8, 12 years. But the biggest pet peeve I have is when I do go to an actual, I'll call it an interview. I don't deem them to be interviews anymore. And someone sits there in front of me and says, right, I've got some questions for you. And they start asking you questions, and you go, oh God, hang on, that takes me back to university days. Now, I do remember someone asking or reading about that subject. What was it? And you think, bloody hell, why am I being asked questions that are in a textbook that are going to not be used day in, day out? Now, don't get me wrong, if the algorithm you're asking them is a day in, day out problem, then maybe there's some value there for asking it and asking how they solve it. I wouldn't expect to say to them, right, here's the problem, solve it right now in front of me. But what I might say is, okay, this is the sort of gist of the issue we've got. Take me through how you would solve that. So again, this takes me back to that resourcefulness comment. So I might be looking for things like, okay, first of all, I'm going to go back to the stakeholders, the product owner. I'm just going to flesh it out with them a bit more. I want to talk to them a bit more. I want to understand why is it that this algorithm is needed? What is the expected outcomes for it? If I was to input this, what are the outcomes?
That adds so much value, right? Because
And have that
sometimes we get
conversation.
requirements that haven't really been thought through. Like, oh, I need X. And like, okay, I'll build X. But it's like, but why do they want X? They actually might want Y, but they don't realise it yet. But when you're asking them for the requirements, kind of pulling it out of them, you might be able to propose some other solutions that are actually more tailored to actually what they want.
I mean, these people, they're not stupid. They know what they want. The problem is they can't articulate it very well from a technical work. Because most of these people who are asking for stuff, they're coming from a totally different background. You've got to understand that. So in an interview, I don't expect to be asked, please solve these particular problems. Because, okay, maybe they're valid problems and they probably need solving. But the truth is, when I go to solve that, I'm probably going to use my resources to find the answer. There's a degree I might be able to get 70% of the way there without looking at any of those resources, but getting the last little bit, it probably does. I probably might need to remind myself, how does this particular algorithm work, etc. But asking me a question like that in an interview, and certainly in the last couple of years, I've walked out of interviews when they start asking me questions like that, because if they're going to go down that path, I don't want to work for them, because they're just after someone that's just going to knock out code, whether it's right or wrong, who cares probably. They're not building the right culture there. They're just expecting people to get their heads down, get stuff done with no reason at all. So yeah, definitely, if you're in an interview and you're an interviewer, don't ask people technical questions. Ask them enough to get an appreciation for how they go about doing something. So again, back to the agile practices, will they go around, get the acceptance criteria? How will they formulate that? Are they going to use a gherkin format for that? When they write their code, are they going to do a test first approach to it?
Yeah.
I've gone past my slide right now, but test first is probably the most important thing to me. However, I do also appreciate that sometimes you need to experiment, and you can't always just put the test in. You need to experiment, try things out, think, how do we shape this a bit, and then you can put your tests in. But certainly before you make a commit, there should be a matching set of tests that go with it to give evidence that this is going to work and it's got
with
the right
boundary
edge
conditions
cases
as
there.
well, because you want to know that it also can fail and the code covers that. So having boundary condition tests is really important.
And the other things that I'd then look for is, beyond actually writing the code, what happens afterwards. Because it doesn't finish at the point where I commit it and throw it away. The code still has a life. It's going to get a code review. So I expect to be getting told, yeah, okay, I'm happy to do code reviews. These are the things I look for: consistency in standards, using sensible documentation wherever it's needed, naming variables sensibly, and what kind of things you're looking for when you're doing a code review. And then running the code up itself locally, just making sure, is this fit for purpose, taking it back to the acceptance criteria. Those are the sorts of things that during an interview you want to understand from someone, not are you the best coder in the world, because there's plenty of people out there that are going to be able to answer that question, but there's not so many people out there that are going to know what goes around all that. Deployment as well.
To give another example on that, and I'll answer, Joshua just asked a question, and he gave some really good feedback. He says this is really helpful, so
Cool.
we'll get to your question in a second. I just want to add that the best person I interviewed was, the test I gave them was, they couldn't complete it in the hour. There's no way. The idea was you couldn't complete the test in the hour, but I wanted to see where did you focus on. And 99.9% of people just try to bash out loads of code to get something working, forgot about tests, forgot about documentation, forgot about all best practices. And that's the point I wanted to see. When people get, push comes to shove, would they rather deliver 10 features at 90% done or 80% done, or would they rather deliver 5 features at 100% best practice done. And I'd rather have someone working on my team deliver less features but 100% amazingly done with, like Andrew said, automated testing, with boundary conditions, documentation. And the way they completed it was actually really interesting. The way they completed it was when they wrote the code, they just wrote skeleton code. It was pseudo code. It had a class that would do this and a method with the title of what it would do, but they didn't implement that code. And then they had tests to back that up, to say the test would then test that method, and another test that would test that method with the boundary condition. And then they also had documentation, but documentation was just the subtitles. And again, that showed that they really thought everything. And they wrote even Gherkin, and they wrote the Gherkin to show how the test. So they had the step def, but the step def was just the outline of it, the skeleton class. Awesome. It wasn't actually doing it. And they had a cucumber. I was like, this person thinks in such a great way, such a proper way, that it was brilliant. It was really, really good. So that was really impressive. I'm just going to answer some of these questions. And the battery on the Insta360 is getting quite low already. We've been going for...
We do want to get to a little retro on ourselves.
We do, and that's the biggest piece as well. We get into about 40 minutes, and this thing's got about 10 minutes probably left on it. So yes, I want to do a shout out for Andrew's channel as well. Andrew's just started a channel, but we'll come to that in a second.
It's a new thing.
Let's do that now, actually. You know what? Let's do that now. So if you're panning over Andrew's way and you're seeing Andrew talking on the 360 camera, don't forget to grab the video and look over. Andrew has recently started a YouTube channel. I've encouraged him to do it. And Andrew, his channel's different to mine. His is it's on tech, but it's focusing more on coding and best practice, but really focusing on that. So I like to do coding on my channel, but also like to do events, hackathons, and so on, as you all know me. But Andrew wants to focus on coding a lot more. So
it's the best practices, as you say. It's going to be focused on some real world stuff. I mean, I've done a very, very initial video to start out, which is just kind of here that you set up a development environment, what tools you might want to use. And the next video is going to be effectively a GitHub video about how to manage your code from a code repository perspective, using GitHub open source, how you do all that, how you set it up securely, so SSH keys, all that stuff. And then we'll get into more of the modern framework stuff and do some tutorials on that. But I want to try and make it more realistic, because there's plenty of videos out there that will tell you, for example, with Angular, how to write a component, what it takes to build a component, what it takes to build a directive, what it takes to build a filter, and all the rest of it. But what we want to be doing is taking that into the real world and showing some real project use.
Real projects with real best practices and not just the bare minimum, a realistic view. So I'm just going to share Andrew's channel, a link to his channel in the chat. So don't forget to go head over here.
Please subscribe. It's going to get probably quite busy over Easter, because I've got a little bit of time off, so there'll be lots of stuff going on over Easter. And we're trying to do these videos every week or so. And,
So let me answer these 2 questions. I know we've got more stuff to get through before this dies. Everyone, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up below. This is simultaneously motivating. This is what Joshua says. Motivating, it puts me at ease, especially while I'm on a job hunt breaking into tech. So Joshua, we really just know where you are in the world as well. I'm guessing the US, but let me know where you are in the world. But I'm glad this has helped, motivating, and don't work for shit companies. Like if they're giving you algorithms and stuff to do, and and you're not going for a job in low-level data number crunching or whatever, and you're going as a web dev or I don't know, an app developer or something, then just say this doesn't make sense. When do you do this in your day-to-day job? And if they say, oh, we don't, then say, well, can you give me a more realistic test? Because you want more of a realistic test, the bottom line. And if they say, well, this is what we do, then it's your decision, but I would get up and walk out. I'm not wasting my time on something I'm not going to do as a day-to-day job.
Remember, you spend most of your life doing your job. The other thing you spend most of your time doing is sleeping. Between sleeping and your job, that is your life. So you might as well enjoy the time when you're awake and you're mentally active, unless you have some fantastic dreams. I mean, maybe you're a massive dreamer and those dreams cater for everything you need, but chances are they don't. So find a job that you're going to enjoy, and don't just sit there taking the first thing that comes along, because chances are they're going to just take you for a ride, let's say.
Absolutely. And the second question was, Uggle, I can't pronounce it. As a junior, is it better to go wide, build different things with different tools, languages, or go deep? Say, build more advanced projects in a particular technology? It's a very, very good question.
Okay.
Wow,
I'll let you answer today.
Well, we'll both answer, I think, but I guess
Maybe we'll be the same.
I'll start. I think it's good to go wide and deep, and bear with me while I explain that.
You want it all.
I have a reason to my madness. So go wide is in be aware of everything, and then pick something and go deep. So you get the best of both worlds. So if, for example, if you do Angular and Node, go deep in those, but it's good to do some Hello World projects in React, in Vue.js, and some other frameworks. But just Hello World. Don't go deep in them, but just have a quick play so you've got an appreciation for them, so you can have a conversation and compare them. So, oh, Angular does this and React does this. But it may be in Angular you've gone really, really deep. So try and do both is my answer.
The other thing I'd say is there's two different statements there. So you're focusing very much on the code side of the language you're using, the framework. Within the dev role, it's more than writing code, right? So I think you do need to go wide, but not wide across languages, across frameworks, but wide across the peripheral things that make up a good developer. So being able to get exposure to writing tests. I mean, for me, a developer is responsible for the tests and the code, not just the code. Being able to manage requirements. So sitting with product owners, whenever there's an opportunity that says, oh, we need to go and spec out something, who's available, get straight in there. Learn the peripheral things that sit around just writing the code. But as Eddie says, when it comes to writing the code, you want to be good at your job, so you're going to need to go deep. You've got to bear in mind that things like Angular, React, they're frameworks, they're not going to be around forever. They have a time, they have a buzz around them, but they'll get interchanged. I mean, 18 years, I've probably used 30 different frameworks, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, there's almost 2 every year that you go through, and there's only so much time you can get properly deep with those things. So you might be focused on 3 different things at the moment. Yep, Angular, Node, they're probably the 2 key things for me. I'm getting quite deep into those. But the next role I take, maybe we Vue.js, who knows. So yeah, definitely on your day job for the code side, go as deep as you can into what's valid. Think a little bit about the future, because if you're working on something that's been around for the last 5 years, chances are it's going to expire soon, and when you come to look for your next job, you'll be looking and going, oh gosh, the technology world has changed. So you do need to keep a little bit up to date. So back to that earlier slide, whilst I don't necessarily want to bring it up, this comment here around, you need to know all the latest tech. Okay, yeah, you need to have an awareness of what's coming out and dabble with some of the new stuff.
Put the myth thing up there as well.
But there's no kind of, you need 10 years with that. There you go, there's your myth thing.
Just so people are realising this is kind of more of a myth.
It's not what you need as such. So breadth definitely with all the peripheral activities that a developer needs to do, but a bit of depth on the technology is definitely going to help you. But you need to build a career, so think about what's coming out. Keep an eye on where is the buzz going to move to, because that's going to be where you get the jobs. But also you need to be a bit niche. Don't just follow everybody else. Like there's been a big React movement over the years, and that's why React has gone up on here, because that's what everyone's talking about is React. There are hundreds of jobs out there looking for React developers. There's definitely not enough React developers looking for it, but none of them are offering anything that interesting. They're
That's
all quite
special,
short-lived.
right? If you became an expert in automated testing, you've got a niche, right? You're carving yourself out. You get known as the React person, but you can go in and fix those fucked up React projects because someone just hacked some shit together really quickly. But if you can bring an extra benefit, then you'll stand out. You want to stand out. So I keep telling everyone open source, and Andrew is saying, get best practice, get best practice.
So I think we should try and finish by doing a bit of work on this.
The battery's going to die in probably 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. So we're going to be quite quick.
Okay, while you do that, I'm going to answer some questions real quick. So we've got Circle Pixel says, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. It really help us. We really appreciate that back. And don't forget to have a quick look around the room with a 360 camera, and you can drag the video and have a look round. Circle Pixel asks, what's usually expected of a junior developer fresh out of uni, or someone that's self-taught for that matter? Like, what would the daily tasks be?
Well, that will depend heavily on who you end up with.
It is really
because there's a lot of different cultures again.
Sure, but we can answer that from us. So from our point of view, we want everyone to add value to the team. So it depends on what your strengths and weaknesses are. So we want your weaknesses to get better. So we want you to get exposure to that on a weekly basis to get better at it. But also we want you to harness your strength so you can feel that you're contributing to the team from day one. So getting involved in coding, grazing PRs, be it for documentation or for code or for writing automated tests, whatever it is, on a daily basis is really important to get in that flow. You follow the same rituals, kind of speak. as the rest of the team, but also giving you time to learn the more difficult stuff that you don't know yet, so you can get better, and therefore the next week, the next sprint, you'll add more value. Just keep giving you more value so you can add more value back. I think that's really, really important. Just to jump on to some of the other comments. 2 a.m. in China. Well, okay, Uggles in China, 2 a.m. Wow. It's 7 p.m. here in UK London. And I've got people from the States. I think Elliot's from the States. It must be like 2. It must be 2 p.m. probably.
Yeah.
Definitely open source it.
You've got to do it. You've got to have a passion behind your job. If you don't have that passion and that spark outside of your work, how are you going to enjoy your work? I mean, you're in the wrong career if you're not doing some of that stuff, I think. Don't get me wrong, you're not always going to be writing code on those side projects. It could be anything, but yeah, definitely do your own stuff, even if it fails. I mean, it can fail over and over again.
Even if it's just a learning curve, like if you're learning stuff, just put it on a project on GitHub, and people can then look back, when they're interviewing you today, they can look back a month and see, oh, you've improved since that month, right? It doesn't matter where you are today, but they know over the last month, 2 months, you've got better.
I think as someone who goes around recruiting a lot of developers, I mean, I don't know how many developers I've recruited.
A lot.
Probably 200 plus developers over the last few years. That's just the last few years. The thing that interests me the most is when I want to bring someone in for a second interview. So I had a phone call with them. I call pretty much everyone that sends a CV my way, because you never really know. The CV, to me, it's not a true opinion of what you are. But the interesting one is when I want to bring someone in for a second interview, then I will actually go and look, and I will check out their GitHub, their LinkedIn, whatever it is. I'll go and have a look and see what they've done. Try to understand their journey, where have they gone through. I know that people are going to start out by being really rubbish. I was, and I probably still have a lot of issues. But learning that journey and where people are going and how they're evolving, what their interests are, that becomes part of their culture and what they're going to bring to